lately I've really been thinking a lot about just like empowerment in terms of, feeling good in your own skin and not allowing like this, not having this idea of when I lose 10 pounds or when I accomplish this, blah, 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 I'm going to feel good in my skin, but like feel good in your skin now. And that's been when I'm visualizing my, like the growth of my practice. Like I really want it to be about that, and the self-love piece and, that feeling good in your skin, of course, is helped by, taking good care of yourself, but it's a more holistic thing that occurs through all these different ways. And I just feel like I didn't feel good in my skin ever until, I remember like the first time I wore a bathing suit and I felt good. I was like 30. I was like, oh my God, I've never, ever actually felt this way. And it made me like so happy, but also so sad.
Yeah.
Like, and I know that so many women, that's something I thought we could talk about, is just like feeling good in your own skin.
Okay. I love that. I am so excited to bring to you a very, very special guest today on the Empowered by Design podcast. I am here with Juni Bucher. I cannot wait to introduce you to Juni. First, I'm going to read a little bit about her, and then we are going to jump right in and talk about lots and lots of fun things. Juni Bucher is a nutritional therapy practitioner and meditation teacher. She specializes in hormone balance and breast cancer survivorship. As a survivor of breast cancer and Hashimoto's disease, Juni is living proof that a holistic approach to health can heal. She has a virtual nutritional therapy practice in Portland, Oregon, where she specializes in breast cancer survivorship and hormone balance. She is also a member of the Rose City Sexual Health Collective, where she works with other sex-positive practitioners to enable people to feel sexy in their skin. Ooh, I love that. Welcome to the podcast, Empowered by Design. I'm your host, Dr. Liz, a licensed psychologist and owner of Visionistas by Design Wellness Boutique in Nazareth, Pennsylvania. This podcast is about the power of connection and a proactive approach to mental health and overall wellness. It's about finding and owning your power right now and using it for good by nurturing the connection of body, mind, heart, soul, and spirit. Empowered by Design podcast delivers psychological concepts and practical strategies with a real-life approach, designed to empower health and wellness, optimal performance, authentic connection with yourself and others, and purposeful, joyful living. Be well, live empowered, dream, design, deliver. Juni and I share a passion for empowering women, and Juni says that so many people live the majority of their life uncomfortable in their bodies. I truly believe that when we support ourselves with whole food nutrition, mindfulness, and a lot of self-love, that we can achieve incredible joy. It is my mission to help women and men feel lovingly connected to their bodies and have the energy to pursue their dreams. Ooh, welcome, Juni. I'm so glad to have you here. I love, love, love reading that stuff.
Thanks, Liz. I'm so happy to be talking with you today.
Me too. Me too. So as I just love having guests on this podcast. I thank you so much for being a guest on the Empowered by Design podcast. I think if you are here listening and you've been here before, welcome. You can already tell just by what I've read in this short bio and empowerment info just how much Juni and I overlap in our passion, our mission, our vision for love and health and wellness. And so I'm so very excited to have you here.
Thank you. Yes, you're so easy to talk to. I'm sure we're going to have plenty of stuff to talk about today.
So when we first met, I'm going to tell how we connected.
Sure.
We connected in our group coaching program as coachees. And when I joined, it was coachees.
Sounds so cute.
Everybody needs a coach, right?
Yes.
Everybody needs a coach. And I've absolutely learned that lesson over the past couple of years as an entrepreneur, but a new, starting a business. I'm a psychologist and I did not get business education in my training. We were just taught how to be a psychologist. So for sure, I have learned so much in our collective that we are together. And with Shawn Mynar, when I joined, it was called Unstuck Entrepreneur. Now it's called Holistic Business Starter. And immediately so each time new members come in to the group, Shawn has done a wonderful job establishing community connection, and a space for us to connect together and share our dreams, our passion, our mission, and also help each other, support each other, ask questions. And I love, I think when new people come, it's just fun to tell who you vibe with. And I felt that connection really immediately when we met.
Definitely. Yeah. And just props to Shawn. I've been a fan of hers for many years. I've done a lot of her programs and I just think she's a wonderful person. And I'm so grateful for the connections I've made with you and so many other awesome, holistic. Well, I mean, I guess there's so many different people that come into her groups and everybody has really brought some wonderful energy and perspective. So I'm very grateful for that.
Yeah. So tell us a little bit about yourself. We read, we heard about you in the bio. New things are happening that I've, saw on social media. We chatted a little bit about, but so tell us about what you do and we will go from there.
Sure. Yeah. I have been, I'm a California native, California girl through and through. And when I was in high school, I'm a singer and I was doing a lot of singing, like sometimes up to 4 hours a day because I was in plays and voice lessons and all this stuff. And I noticed I was having I kept clearing my throat. And so I went to the doctor and they found a nodule in my thyroid and discovered, after testing and stuff that I had Hashimoto's thyroiditis. And I kind of knew that was coming. It was something that was in our family. And so it wasn't like a huge surprise. It just felt really young. And for whatever reason, it made me want to start exploring health a bit more. I was a kid that, I was kind of a latchkey kid. And literally, I feel like my goals in life were about how much TV I could watch and how much candy I could buy at the corner store. My mom fed us well, but I just, we were on our own a lot. So I wasn't a very good eater. And I started studying nutrition, just reading books and stuff. It became this passion for me. I felt like I just was gobbling up this information. And so, friends and family were always like, why don't you go into nutrition? And I actually was pursuing other things. I studied acting in college. I was doing voiceover work. I mean, that was kind of my other dream, doing professionally singing and stuff. But the nutrition was always on the back burner and it was always another passion. I decided at one point that I didn't feel like I could give what was required of me to pursue the performing arts lifestyle. It felt kind of lonely to me, so anyway, I started doing other jobs. I was able to to kind of put my Hashimoto's into remission through nutrition, which was really incredible. And then I had another curveball at the age of 41, where I was diagnosed with breast cancer. And so immediately I kind of went to the food and lifestyle stuff and really took a look at things. I mean, I think with any health journey, even the most dedicated, healthy individual has detours. There are periods where you cycle in and out of your nourishing behaviors. And, I think that's something that a lot of people don't realize about, most people, even health professionals. It's like, nobody's perfect. There are periods of time where you're just going to be a little bit off and you have to constantly adjust. That's the thing about health, is like, there's no finish line. You don't get to like figure it out, because it's just, your needs are constantly changing anyway. But,
no, I'm sorry. I love that, because I do think we are people who look for that finish line. And that's the frustrating part, is like, wait, why do I still have to pay attention to what I eat,
Or why does what I'm eating now not work for me in the same way that, we are constantly changing, and especially women,
just throughout our lives. Absolutely. Different
with exercise and food and stress management. I mean, it's just all evolving. And I think, people don't realize that. It's like, well, I found keto and I did this, it's like, I'm a big fan of keto. Actually, I know a lot of people don't like keto. I think keto is a great tool, but keto is great for certain situations. And then, if your life changes, it might not be the best thing for you. You just have to be willing to adjust. Anyway. So, luckily I did beat the breast cancer. But it was one of those things where I really kind of took stock of my life. I firmly believe breast cancer and any kind of health crisis is, an opportunity for people to really take stock of how they are treating their body, maybe what they're repressing, if they're doing too much. And I had a great job. I didn't love the job. I didn't hate the job. But I could feel in my being that I was ready to leave that job. I had done it for 6 years and, made good money. But then lockdown happened, 2020. And I said, you know what? I want to live the life. I want to live a life of my own design. And I said, I'm going to go back to school. I'm going to study nutrition. I'm going to follow this path. And I got certified as a nutritional therapy practitioner, which was inspired in part by Shawn, Mynar, who was my NTP. And I just really liked the approach. And then it took me about a year before I was ready to take the leap into full time. And that's where I am now. I mean, now I'm coming up on the second year of my business, because of my own experiences with breast cancer and thyroid hormone stuff. I'm just really drawn to the hormone balance. And I'm also drawn to, as a woman who was diagnosed with breast cancer at a bit of a younger age, and I am single, unmarried, no children. Like I feel like there's a whole community of needs that I try to address in my practice and I also have a podcast. It's called TATA Cancer, and I love it. It's focused on, the issues and healing that occurs after a breast cancer diagnosis for all women, or all men and women who are diagnosed with, but specifically with the younger community. Like a lot of women after mastectomy, what do you do if you're single and you need to bring that up, with somebody new that you're dating? It's how do you reclaim your sexuality? And I started doing stuff with my friend Christine, who is a clinical sexologist, and we had a podcast. We're working on some workshops for just like reclaiming your body as a, breast cancer survivor. Maybe you lost a breast. That's for some people losing an erogenous zone. Maybe you just have a lot of body image issues, and how do you support yourself nutritionally and, stress management wise, and also, what kind of things can you do from a sexual health perspective is sort of what she covers. And so I loved working with her so much. She started this sexual health collective and said, we need somebody to help people, because I don't think a lot of people realize that your general health really ties into your sexual function, but also your sexual desire. If you don't feel good in your body, if you have a terrible body image, it can be really hard to get out of your head. But there are other factors that play a part, especially for men, in terms of, if you have bad circulation or, issues with your weight or you're diabetic, stuff like that, that can really affect your sexual function. So it just kind of worked out that way that they wanted somebody to start supporting their clients in that way. And so I'm starting that. This is all brand new.
Ooh, I love it.
Yeah, I have a virtual practice, so I take clients everywhere, but I'm going to be moving up to Portland to just be closer to the collective. And I'll be able to do live workshops with some of the other practitioners who are licensed therapists and sexologists and sex coaches. And they have a pelvic floor specialist. And I think they're looking for an acupuncturist. I can say we.
Yes.
Now, which is really great. And then there's me who's going to talk about, and I guess another thing, I hope this isn't going on too long, but another thing I've just been thinking a lot about is, just approaching all this stuff holistically. There are things that you can do, hormones you can take, which, no shame in that approach, but I don't think a lot of people realize that there are a lot of little tweaks you can do in your lifestyle and diet that allow you to reverse those things without the need for taking pharmaceuticals that have side effects and potential risks involved. So it's not the quick fix, but the great thing about it is that the benefits they will ripple into every area of your life when you handle from the inside in a holistic manner. Because if you have better energy and you are sleeping well and your skin looks good because you're drinking water and eating good food, and it's just going to radiate, And so I'm excited to help people, in that way. And I definitely love supporting breast cancer survivors, because there's a lot that you don't, once you finish treatment, it's kind of like, okay, don't let it come back. And you're like, what? So there's that. There's a lot going on.
Yeah, there is. There's a lot going on. And I love so much of what you said in that. Thank you for sharing all of those pieces of your journey and your story and where your passion comes from. And I love hearing that. One of the things that stands out is that, I want to say the name of your podcast again, TATA Cancer. Go find it. Listen to Juni. Bring your tissue box, because you are real. And I love that about you, authentically real. And I have to say, when I listened to, the very first episode of your story, I had to do it in like pause. I had to pause and like compose myself, because it's a beautiful story. I again love your authenticity, and you really go into the different layers that come when you are given that diagnosis, right? The news, the shock, the grief, just all of it. It is, and it's so empowering. So you're welcome. Thank you for sharing it. So part of why it was also emotionally powerful for me is that my mom is a breast cancer survivor. So she was in her early 50s when she found the lump, and it was just devastating for all of us. And she's a survivor. So thank God for that. And so that does have a special place in my heart for women who have also survived, or women who've gone through it or are going through it now. One of the things that I would love for you to tell us more about is the breast cancer, the packet that you created.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, and just like you said, there's so many, almost everybody I know knows a woman that's been diagnosed with breast
Mm-hmm.
cancer. The statistics at this time are like 1 in 8 women in their lifetime
Mm-hmm.
will be diagnosed. And, yeah, it affects the entire family, not just the patient. Everybody is affected. So yeah, one of the things that I did, because it is so overwhelming. I don't think anybody can ever be prepared. I didn't have any genetic component or real family history. So, but I think even if you do, nobody's ever prepared to hear those words. You have cancer. So I created a free resource. I have several free resources for breast cancer survivors that, we can put in the show notes, but it's called the Breast Cancer Grounding Kit. And it's essentially for this exact time when you're just so overwhelmed. And what it is it's a meditation that I created to help you feel supported and grounded. It's also a recipe for this. It's just like a soup that literally has all these ingredients that are shown to help you feel grounded. And then it's something you can freeze, because that's one big thing with like breast cancer treatments. You just need healthy food on hand, and it can be hard to do that. And it's also some journal prompts. So you can sit with yourself and all the tools that I know of to help you deal with that initial shock, because it's going to be there for a little bit. I think it took me a couple weeks, and a lot of women that I knew during that time who had come before me in their own breast cancer journey, they said that, like, just be prepared. It's going to take a couple of weeks for your system to calm down. And it's actually the meditation. I might be re-recording it a little bit, but it was inspired by a really beautiful moment that I actually had with my partner at the time, who was a wonderful, like such a nurturing, wonderful man. And I couldn't sleep. It was one of the first nights, and we had actually gone to Yosemite to kind of get away, and I couldn't sleep. I was just like tossing and turning, and just intuitively he woke up, and I was so scared. Like, even thinking about it now, I get so emotional. It's like, I just felt so scared and overwhelmed, because there were no answers. All I knew was like, I had cancer, and they thought it was 2 different types of cancer. They thought this and that. And he just took me outside, and we could hear this little river rushing that was right beneath the Airbnb that we were at. And he was just like, just look at the stars. And we just looked at the stars, and it was, for whatever reason, just to feel the enormity of the universe somehow connecting to the beauty of nature with this loving partner, who I knew was there for me. And not everybody might have that opportunity, but I wanted to recreate the beauty of that moment in this meditation. And it's themed on that. And it's themed on a nest, and how to call in the support of your teachers and your loved ones to rally around you, whether they're on this plane or not, in that moment, because that's what you need.
Yes.
In these times of crisis. And so that's a really special meditation for my heart. Yeah. It was like the first one I've ever created. I've created many since then. So I'm kind of like, I should go back and clean that up. but it was really coming from this sincere place. And I hope it's useful to people. But that's that.
It sounds absolutely beautiful. Very, very beautiful. I remember when my mom, she struggled a lot with sleep, and I was very early. I was still in school, so I was doing meditations, but not the way that I am now. I think that another thing that we connect on is we're both teachers on Insight Timer app, so you can find Juni there as well. And I remember thinking, like, I would say to her, mindfulness and meditation would be so good for you. And at that point, I didn't know of all these resources. And so, but I wish I knew then what I know now is kind of what I think about. But So check that out too, where we can find you at your website. Can you tell us where we can find you?
Sure. For the breast cancer grounding kit.
Yeah.
It's junibewell.com,
Okay.
www. And there's a tab for, I think it's like free resources or freebies that you can click on and you can get to that. You can download any of those things. I've got that. And I've got a couple other things there.
Yeah, I will definitely, and I'll put those links in the show notes too, but I like to say it out loud in case like people like me who are driving can hear it, listen to it, and then if they need to go find it in the show notes, they have it in both places. Another thing that I would love to hear your perspective on is recognizing how this life experience, not only the breast cancer diagnosis and journey to become a survivor, but also the Hashimoto's. These are things that happened, and then there was a reaction, right? Something had to happen that you said, I went back to food. But so there was a part of it was a reaction to go back to food and kind of go back to that, that space of health and wellness, but it didn't start there. You had already started this journey in a proactive way of being healthy, being well, paying attention to what your body needs and wants and needs to feel good, so that when then something happened, it wasn't like all of a sudden I'm scrambling to find answers. You were able to rely on things that you had already done in a proactive way.
Yeah. I mean, I definitely have not been perfect in my health. I think I'm healthier now than I ever have been, but, seeing the power of food, I think can be an abstract concept for some people to understand that, you really are, we are affected. We are affected by the way we nourish ourselves and the foods that we eat. And it affects not only your weight or your skin, but it affects your mood. It affects your ability to handle stress. And it's the thing that bums me out sometimes is that sometimes it does take a health crisis for people to see or go to these things. Whatever way you find your way there is okay. But yeah, I mean, having that background and knowing like I can support myself, I can bolster my ability to handle crisis by taking good care of myself. And that is just a wonderful tool to start from. And instead of beating yourself up or going into victim mode of, why did this happen to me? Or what did I do, to create this issue, just saying, okay, I'm going to have to realign here. And that was a big thing, because looking at, well, what are some of the factors? And I think, in my opinion, with breast cancer specifically, and even, Hashimoto's, which is an autoimmune disease, so many people have Hashimoto's, environmental factors play a big part. Like there's so many endocrine disruptors that we encounter on a day-to-day basis, like receipt paper ink, or, the plastic lid that you drink your Starbucks out of. And it can be overwhelming to go down that rabbit hole, but there is a lot. Household cleaning products. There are so many ways that we can kind of try to eliminate some of the toxins in our life, but almost more importantly than anything else, a lot of it, I think, is about how you talk to yourself, the environments that you're in. Like, do you hate your job? Are you in a terrible relationship that makes you feel bad about yourself? Like, these are all things that are toxic,
Yeah.
So beyond food and stress management, exercise, like looking at the way we are living our lives and are we happy? I think those are really important places to look to. I don't know if that answers the question, but
yes, absolutely. It really does, because I've been feeling personally and professionally, and even just in my universal kind of connection with seeing people on social media and just different places, there is this energy around what you're saying of like taking inventory, take time. And I say it all the time. I say, pause, reflect. And I know that I have to be better at doing that myself. But rather than waiting for a crisis to occur or something to force us to shut down and pause like we all experienced a few years ago, to be able to plan that in and say, okay, let me take some inventory. What are exactly what you said? What are the big areas of my life that I am putting out energy towards? My job, my relationship, my, driving here, driving there, the things that I'm putting energy into, and then the things that are building me up, filling me up with energy. And I need to find balance, right? So as a people, as a collective, it's an invitation to say, okay, how do I do this, right? We need to make the time to do it in order to find out, be able to sit with ourselves in those moments and say, what is extra that I am putting out that is not bringing me back any positive or is not in line with my values. So maybe really thinking of it as a value inventory, a value energy inventory of just taking the time to do that, because when you do, then things come to the surface that then you can say, oh, I didn't know this until I took the time.
Totally. I couldn't agree with you more. Like, and that's one thing I tell people in terms of the stress management is like, we can't just quit our jobs and, give our children to the wolves. We have responsibilities. There are stressors in life. We can't control the global pandemic, but we have to change our relationship to stress, and we have to counterbalance our stresses our relationships. Do they nourish us and that's a really hard one for a lot of people, as especially if you consider yourself like a really loyal person, but being protective of your energy, that's been a big lesson for me as a middle-aged woman. And I think a lot of middle-aged women kind of start going through that, where you're less of a people pleaser and you start to protect your energy a little bit more. And I think that's a huge part of being empowered.
Oh, I love it.
Is understanding that letting go of these things that don't fill your cup.
Yes.
It's
preach it.
It can be the kindest thing for everybody involved. And another concept that I feel like I learned in the last couple of years that was really powerful for me is that, there are kind ways to communicate your needs and your boundaries, but trying to protect others from their own discomfort is actually not beneficial. There are ways to diplomatically say things, and that's an art form in itself. But, people, it's growth. Like, discomfort is an opportunity for growth. And whether it's you having discomfort communicating your own boundary, or them having discomfort hearing that you need to extract a boundary, like, that's not your job to protect them from. It's important that people have the opportunity to experience and deal with those feelings. Because as a society, I think one of the biggest problems we have in America is not sitting with we don't know how to sit with our feelings. And we feel like if we have sadness or anger or discomfort in any way, we eat, drink, spend, or like stream our way out of it, right? Like, how do we sit with our discomfort? That's a lesson I feel like has taken me so long to learn. I struggle with all the time. And but it is really powerful when you figure that out. Like,
I agree.
Yeah,
absolutely. I love that concept of all of it, all of what you just said, the protecting ourselves and not feeling that sense of responsibility to take take ownership of someone else's feelings, to be able to speak our truth and recognize, yeah, it might be uncomfortable for that person to hear. And if I don't say it, then I'm putting that on myself. I'm putting that potential for resentment, and, pleasing someone else at my expense. And I think about how when we think about setting boundaries and how part of love is setting boundaries. A really important part of love is saying, here's where my limit is. This is where this is the line. And then inviting and I want to say demanding the respect of those boundaries, but it also creates safety and trust, right? So even when we're thinking about it, whether it's a romantic relationship or we're teaching our children, this is a boundary. It's needed in order to create that sense of trust and safety that we have and enjoy in relationships. So rather than avoid it, it's important to recognize the balance of setting them.
Yeah, that's the ironic thing about boundaries. And it can be so hard, especially when you're first starting to do that for yourself. Like it feels so uncomfortable, but then it gets easier. And when you clearly communicating your boundaries is actually an act of kindness. Like give people the parameters and then enforce them, because if you're wishy-washy about boundaries, or if you expect somebody to read your mind about your boundary, like that's asking for trouble. And it really is helpful. It might feel uncomfortable in the interim, but it does help.
Yeah.
And if somebody is not willing to respect your boundaries or incapable, then that's not a healthy relationship for you. Everything kind of becomes clear.
Yeah, that's part of the inventory, taking inventory.
Yes.
So tell us, I am so intrigued by this new development. You're moving so when we were preparing for this podcast, we were talking about LA because I had been in LA, and now you're moving out of Cali to Oregon. But it sounds like it is, I want to come with you. It sounds like an amazing opportunity. Tell us a little bit about what you'll be doing. Yeah.
So Portland, I actually have a lot of friends who live in Portland, and just really soulful, wonderful people that I love. And Portland itself, if you've never been, is just gorgeous. I mean, Oregon, the Pacific Northwest. I mean, I'm from Northern California, and nothing comforts me like a redwood tree. But so Oregon is just this lush, beautiful place. I love that Portland is really quirky. Everybody makes fun of Portland and California, the Bay Area, but it's like, I'm still all about it. And there's a lot of waterfalls and rivers. I think that's another thing. Those are two of my other favorite things in this world. It's like inner tubing down a lazy river is one of my favorite things. And of seeing a waterfall is probably like one of the most healing experiences.
Yes.
So basically, as I mentioned previously, my friend Christine, who's a clinical sexologist and sex coach, who, by the way, has an incredible podcast herself that I highly recommend. Your listeners and clients might really benefit from it. It's called So I Married a Sexologist, and it's her and her husband, who he's a comedian and she's a sexologist. They're both so funny. They have the most wonderful relationship, and they talk about just how to communicate with your partner, just all elements of sexuality. And it's fantastic. But so they're up there. I've always wanted to move to Portland, or I've always kind of been like, I would like it there. I am in love with LA right now, which is so ironic that I'm leaving it because I've had a love and hate relationship with LA, but I love the energy of LA right now. I love the ambition of people. I love that people have dreams that they're totally going for and believing in. And I think that's a unique energy to this city. I've been having fun dating here, and, but this opportunity came up every year. Christine goes like, you should move to Portland. I'll be like, I totally should. And then I think about it for a second and then it's like, whatever. And this time I was just in a place and she said, you should consider joining the collective, the sexual health collective. And I said, that would be great because working, as an entrepreneur, it's a lonely life. It's a lonely life. And, I don't have to give up anything or any of my clients in my practice to feed into this collective. And it kind of opens up a whole new world. And I feel really aligned with their values and their mission. And it's a wonderful conversation starter to be like, I'm part of a sexual health collective.
Absolutely.
People are like, wait, tell me more about this.
Yeah.
So, and they're like, I'm like, I do not have sex with, I'm not a sexologist, but yeah, it's so funny, the questions that come up. And, so just, it was one of those weird things where I said, you know what, I'm actually going to look at this right now. It's been getting so hot in Los Angeles and I live in the Valley and I don't have a pool where I live. And I was like, man, I am so not ready for LA summer, thinking about the lush Portland weather. And I just, those times in your life when just the stars aligned, I found an apartment, everything just came together really fast.
Wow.
And I just said, I'm going to go with it. I'm very unattached right now to anything and anyone. I mean, it's bittersweet because I have family here. I have 4 incredible little nieces that I love and adore. That's the hardest part for me leaving. I have friends that I adore, but there are airplanes. I can come back. And I've also ironically met people in this last little stretch of time that I'm like, wow, you're so great. And, friends, and people that I've just, it's weird how, and I think it's just that energy I have when you're in an energy of excitement and joyfulness, and I try to stay in that energy, but I feel like it was especially heightened. Wow. There's just been people that are coming into my life right now. I'm like, I'm not trying to make more friends right now. I need to pack, but I've been making these like great connections, with people and having so much fun, and it's all feeding into this joyfulness. And how spring and summer are.
Yes.
Like the world wakes up and everybody's just like starry-eyed and blooming, and with that extra vitamin D kick that we're getting, everybody's just in this like great mood. So I'm going to go up there. We're going to start doing some workshops. I haven't quite pinned that out, but I'll be able to work with more clients, specifically focusing on libido is a big thing that I think, people struggle with, especially in midlife, men and women. And, just really wanting people to know that they can rekindle desire. And I'm excited to work with these therapists that can really handle that element of working with couples and individuals on that piece, and I can handle like, here's how to fuel your body for hormonal health. Because a lot of people don't know that, they may be tanking their libido because they're eating a super low fat diet and doing CrossFit 4 times a week,
Right.
which maybe their body can't handle that. I mean, that's very stressful. So that's what's going on in Portland.
Yeah. And it really brings together so many pieces of the puzzle, right? The body obviously is an important piece, and our mental health, the mind, the heart. You talked too just about your own journey and how there's such a connection spiritually to the universe and to ourselves, to our souls, and being able to pull all of those pieces together to help people feel good, to help people connect, to help people rekindle and find that intimacy. I love it. And you know me and at Visionistas, we love here. We love helping people nurture their relationships, whatever stage of the game, whether it's dating or marriage or finding your own love for yourself across the board is important. And I'm excited to watch your journey and hear more about all of the fun things that you will be doing.
Thanks. Yeah, I love watching what you do. And I think it's so important to nurture your relationships. And, I love you're always posting funny stuff on social media with your husband, and it's so cute. And honestly, I'm like, if people listening to the podcast have never seen your photo, I mean, you're such a gorgeous woman with such a beautiful energy. I'm like, what a lucky, her husband must adore her. And I can tell that you adore him. So I think it's so important what you're doing. And I support your mission as well.
Thank you. That is very kind. He's a bit of a, I don't know, when you said adore, he's, oh gosh, I don't even know. I wasn't expecting to talk about him. He also doesn't like, so the TikTok on TikTok is where,
Yeah.
and then on Instagram, I've posted some things, yes, very much in trying to spread awareness in different places, like where people are, and really recognizing how much time and energy we put in social media is one of these pieces of the inventory I've been doing recently. But every time I've tried to capture him on video, he's like, I don't want to be in your TikToks.
Really?
Yeah. So I've had to sneak him in, and then I show him later. But he did graciously, after a lot of convincing, agree to come on the podcast with me.
I think I remember that. I didn't listen to that episode. I do remember he was on. Yeah.
Yes.
How did that go?
It actually went amazing.
Yeah.
And I just said, well, actually, he asked me to send him questions beforehand. Like, you and I are just like, okay, we're going to talk about this. We're going to talk about this. It'll be great. And he was like, I need questions. I need an outline. And then during the podcast, one of the things I asked him, he's like, I don't know. And I'm like, I sent you this question beforehand. What do you mean you don't know? So I think it was around February. I will definitely link it in the show notes, but it was Meet My Valentine chat.
Yes, I remember. Okay, so I remember.
It is a good one. It's a good episode. I was nervous because obviously we come on these, both of us have a podcast, and we have this mission to empower other people. We have we have knowledge, and we have experience, that we're coming from a place of our expertise, right? Each of us have that, and we've blended those things together to help people in a way that's real and relatable. That's my goal, right? So for me, it was a little bit like, I'm sharing this really important part of the most important person in my life with people. And I was a little nervous about it, but it did turn out well. And he has denied my request to come back. I've asked him, and he's like, no, I told you I did it once. I'm never doing it again. I'm like, we'll see.
Request denied. That's too
Request
funny.
denied with a big fat no. Yes, but thank you for that. That is, I think it's interesting to be able to reflect on. Like I said, we have expertise in what we've gone to school for and what we've received training for, and then certainly life experiences, because we've been married almost 16 years. So
wow.
It is, when I say that, I know there's people who've been married a lot longer, but I'm proud of it. I'm very proud of it, especially we've had our ups and downs. Yeah, relationships are hard. And I think what we both have said is the importance of nurturing the relationship involves nurturing yourself, setting those boundaries, not only just nurturing yourself from all angles, like we've talked about here. And that would be my hope for one of the things that people get out of our talk today is really the importance of proactively taking time for yourself, and pausing and reflecting and deciding where do I want to be going. I love that you talked about helping people connect to their bodies and their dreams. And
I mean, I think I'm pretty sure we're on the same page with this, but just the whole concept of visualizing what you want
Yes.
in life. And
we are on the same page.
yeah, I mean,
Yes.
it's been such a powerful tool, as I've always been somebody that kind of had that. I like to daydream. Who doesn't like to daydream?
I love it.
And it's been so great to visualize and really get into the details of what you want, and then feeling yourself in that reality so that you can take aligned action. And, that's, people can do that with their health. They can do that with their career, their relationships, any aspect of your life. And, nourishing yourself. How does that occur? Whether it's from food, relationships, joyful activities, all of those things. It's important. It's important to fill your own cup. That was, yeah. My slogan when I first started my business, because it's Juni Be Well, is you have to fill your well to be well. And so I've always been about like nourishment, and that's a big thing that I feel like we have a hard time with in this day and age, where everything is about doing more and hustling, all that stuff. Like, it actually, surprise, doesn't have to be that way. It can actually have ease to it.
Yes.
But it takes a little bit of thinking and planning sometimes.
Yes, absolutely. And I really like that you had talked about the dating piece of, after surviving a health crisis, especially surviving breast cancer, that is one of the specialties that you bring with you into your work. Tell us a little bit more about that.
Yeah. I mean, I'm excited to be working with Christine, because she helps with that, the dating piece a lot, but I've just been really vocal about the experience. And I recently, there's a magazine called Wildfire Magazine that's geared towards the young breast cancer community. And one of my dreams was to be a contributing writer. It's all really just, survivors and patients that are writing personal essays. And it's very raw and genuine, and like kind of everything that I feel like I'm about. It was a really powerful tool for me during my experience with breast cancer, and I still am a subscriber. But anyway, they have an issue about body image. And so I wrote an essay about the first time that I, was revealed my asymmetrical breast, because I had a mastectomy. I lost my right breast. I did have an immediate reconstruction. So there is like a mound, and my left side breast, I was supposed to have another surgery to make them kind of like match, which I decided I opted out of. I mean, I can still do it whenever, but I was like, what? I don't want to touch this one. I don't want to cut this one. I just want it to be, because one thing with a mastectomy that I don't think people realize is that you lose all feeling, because you lose all your nerve endings. So, and it actually feels kind of weird, but going from being in a relationship to being out of a relationship, and then having to go back into the dating world, like, how do you approach this with people? I wrote an essay about that experience. It was a positive one. I mean, it's a great litmus test, right? To if a guy or girl that you're with is judgmental or weird about your very physical evidence of a challenge that you overcame. And I've never had anybody react badly to that. I mean, not that I sound like I've been showing everybody my breast, but I mean, I have dated a few people, and it's, everybody's been I think our culture actually is great about cancer. Like, it's not a stigma. It's more of like people see it as a triumph when you beat cancer. Sometimes they're uncomfortable, but they, I guess, yeah. So I wrote this essay. It's very raw. And I try to bring humor to it because I think that's important. And I'm going to actually be reading it on it's called The Burn. It's a podcast for Wildfire Magazine where they have some of the writers come on and read their own essay in their own voice. So I'm super excited to do that. But yeah, just letting women and men know that it'll be okay. It's a lot scarier in your head, probably. And that if you're confident about, if you work on that self-love piece and the confidence, that it can be a very empowering experience to reclaim yourself in that way. But also if it's an opportunity. Because if you aren't somebody like me, who's just like a open book type person, how do you figure out when is the right time to talk about something like that with a prospective partner? How do you create how do you know in your heart and soul that like somebody is safe? That's an opportunity for you to do that. And, and if somebody's doesn't respond in the way that you want, like, how do you resolve that? It's probably more about them than it is about you. But I just think these are things that need to be talked about. So I have been very vocal about my own experience. And it's, again, not something that I feel is like a perfect journey that every day I wake up and I'm like, damn girl. but I do practice a lot of self-love and self-talk and even self-parenting. That's been a big thing for me lately. I live by myself and I like talk to myself more than I ever have. But when I'm feeling really low or whatever, I literally give myself the pep talk that I feel like I need.
Yes.
Yeah. We're so good at pep talking to our friends.
Yes.
Like, what about the pep talks that you need to give yourself sometimes?
I love that because I think if we really do think about it, at least myself, and I've been intentional about this, it's recognizing we sometimes speak way more harshly to ourselves than we ever would to someone else, right? So I love that self-pep talk idea of really just be kind to ourselves. The more that we can show ourselves kindness and self-love, the healthier we'll be. Absolutely.
Yeah. The whole concept of self-compassion, like how would you treat your best friend? Cause we don't, most of the time we are not treating ourselves the way we would our best friend. We're treating ourselves like we wouldn't treat like the worst enemy. We're so cruel. And I mean, I find it, whether it's writing in my journal, like a letter to myself, or writing like a letter to me from my anxiety or my anger or frustration, like giving that an opportunity to have a voice. That can be really helpful because it usually you read that back and then you're like, wow, that was all based in like this reality that hasn't occurred. So like, I don't need to worry about these things or assume that they're true. But also just, for me, literally saying things out loud, even if I don't believe it, just like you're amazing. You're, just, it doesn't have to be insincere, but it's, it helps. It helps me.
Yeah. And I love this because one of the resources that I have on my website fits right in here, and I'm going to talk about it right now. Yeah. It's a free one. It's called the Self-Love Makeover. So if you're not sure where to start, right, there's lots of resources out there. I know there's books out there to help you with self-love. Juni and I overlap on this for sure. You can check out drliz.com. That's drlyz.com/makeover. And it's a free, you put your name and your email and you'll get some emails over the next few days with short little exercises, little videos, little journal prompts, guided meditation is in there, but things that just get your wheels spinning on where do I start with self-love, right? I thought I loved myself. I mean, do I need to do something to love myself, right?
Yeah.
But it can just be helpful to make time for yourself. Start your day. If you can do it in the morning, that's my number one recommendation, is to just the symbolic nature of starting your day with you, right? Because I think as women, we tend to save ourselves for last when it comes to time and energy, if we're not as intentional, because we're caring for others and going to work and doing all the things. And then if there's any time left at the end of the day, we spend maybe a little bit on ourselves. But the shift for me a few years ago really occurred when I said, I am going to start my day with me. And even if it's just a few minutes, it really has helped me a lot. So check that out, drliz.com/makeover. Yeah. And
I think, sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
Oh, I think that's so awesome. Cause yeah, like you hear this abstract, like practice self-love, but it's like, well, where do I start? So knowing that that's a very like tangible thing, that sounds like a great resource.
Yeah. Well, tell us where we can find you. So we know we can tell us all the things, even though you already said your website, because I want, people to know where they can find you. Definitely the TATA cancer. I love so much. I was just telling my friend about it the other day. I love that you are so passionate and you are, okay. TATA cancer is your podcast on any fun platform you can love to listen.
It's all there. There's my profile, Juni Bucher, on Insight Timer for free meditations. My website, junibewell.com. I'm on TikTok, Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn. Juni Be Well. And the Liz will have the links in the show notes. And on that self-love piece, I actually have a free resource too that you can get on my website. It's the self-love dance party playlist. Which combines two things that I love, which is habit stacking. So, which is the concept is that, if you combine two things, this would be exercise, because if it's literally just like this playlist of songs that are like that hype you up and that are all themed around self-love. And just, I don't know, for me, when I listen to music, some of these songs, like I love Lizzo and all these great, like very empowering musicians, I feel a shift energetically. And and with exercise, sometimes that can be hard, but it doesn't have to mean you need to go to the gym or lift weights. Like moving your body in any way, or maybe it's just like what you use to do your household chores, something like that. So that's on the website too, the self-love dance party playlist, and it's a free resource. So yeah, I think those are all the places that you can find me for now, or at the, Rose City Sexual Health Collective that's up in Portland.
So we'll make sure that that's linked in the show notes for sure.
Yeah.
And we would love to invite you to share this episode. Please. Yes. The way that I connected even with Shawn Mynar was one of my very best friends forwarded me a podcast episode and said, I think this is right up your alley. Thank you, Meredith. I always thank her forever. And I listened and I'm like, yes, this is for me. So this may be that life-changing episode that you send to one of the people that you love, because there's not one way. There's not one way to feel well, to live life to the most fullest amount of joy and balance that you can achieve. But this is one way. We have provided lots of resources that are tangible, and we hope that you have enjoyed our talk and felt some empowerment too through our energy and our connection.
Yes, absolutely. Share. I'll share, and if you can share too, listener.
Okay. Well, thank you so much, Juni. I have had a blast again chatting with you, and I thank you for your time and your energy, and thank you so much for your amazing story and your willingness to share it with us to help us as well.
It's always a pleasure to talk with you. Thank you so much for having me.
Okay. Well, thank you for listening. Thank you for coming back. If you have been here before, thank you for your support. If you are new, thank you for tuning in. Welcome. And I hope you will come back for more. Subscribe to this podcast, the Empowered by Design podcast, with me, Dr. Liz, if you are not already subscribed. And I cannot wait to connect with you next time. Take care. Thank you for connecting on this episode of the podcast, Empowered by Design. For further connection, subscribe to my email list at drliz.com to be sure that you are in the loop for exciting news, events, and resources. You can also follow me on social media at Dr. Liz and at Visionistas by Design. I invite you to subscribe to this podcast and send this episode to one of your people in order to share the love, spread the power. This podcast is designed to inspire, educate, and empower you to pursue your dreams with intentional vision. This podcast is not meant to be a substitute for psychological treatment or a working relationship with a licensed mental health professional. For more information on connecting with mental health resources in your area, visit drliz.com and click on resources. Thank you again for connecting. And remember, trust the heart. Work your vision. Dream, design, deliver.